Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, and welcome to today's live stream with me, Michael Petch. I am the editor-in-chief of 3D Printing Industry, and I'll be your host for this live stream where you can meet the creators. We'll be featuring artists, makers, content creators, and people who use 3D printing in imaginative and intriguing manners in this new show from us at 3D Printing Industry. The format of today's event, we will be live both on YouTube and on Remo, and we'll be taking questions from both platforms, but the networking after the panel will only be on Remo. So what is Remo? If you're not familiar with this platform, just take a moment to show you around quickly. And as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, there is the a box marked chat where you can say hello to everybody who's here, and also next to that there is a Q&A box, and that's the place to actually type your questions, and we'll be getting to those as quickly as possible. So it is an interactive event, so make sure you do take the opportunity to ask questions. Following the panel, which will be approximately 60 minutes, there will be a networking opportunity. So we'll revert back to the room you were in when you joined the event today. And there you'll be able to speak to other attendees and also the panelists. Well, what is 3DPI? So 3D Printing Industry, the publication I run, is a new service for the 3D printing and additive manufacturing world. We're also the host of the 3D Printing Industry Awards, and this is an annual awards event where we ask our readers, that includes people in the community like yourselves, to tell us who is leading the industry across 20 different categories. And I've just posted a link so you can check that out later and learn more about it and even make some votes. Well, okay, without further ado then, let's see if I can invite today's panelists to please turn on your cameras and join us.
Hello.
Howdy there.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. We need a bit more light.
Hello.
You're living in the shadows, Joe. Gosh.
There you go. Well lit.
Excellent. So everybody is here. Fantastic. Right. Well, I'm sure everybody's probably familiar with the people you see on the screens now, but I would like maybe we do a quick round robin, and you can maybe just tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you do, please. So let's start with Joe, who you probably know better as Breaks and Makes.
Yes. Well, formerly known as 3D Maker Noob, I'm Joe. I am a master at breaking. I sometimes make things. I've been doing the YouTube thing for, gosh, almost 5 years now, and I still haven't quit. I do a bit of everything. I do a bit of making, I do painting, I do CAD design, I do sculpting. Sometimes I do videos, I do lots of prints, CNC, wood turning, woodworking. Pretty much everything.
That's a lot of things to break and to make.
Yeah.
Well, good. Glad you can make it today. Danny, aka 3D Printed Tabletop. I mean, the clue's in the name there, I suppose, but
yeah. Hi everybody, I'm Danny. I run the YouTube channel 3D Printed Tabletop, and we also have a company that makes 3D printable miniatures and terrain. I normally make content for people who 3D print for tabletop games, which is games like Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer 40,000, and a lot of other games that are really popular, but those are pretty much the biggest ones. So I cover everything from, what little tips are working for me to finishing techniques. I don't really do painting because I'm not the best painter, but pretty much I touch everything that's kind of adjacent that is niche for those people.
Hey, great to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Next up, Ali, great to see you. Also in the same town as well. So thanks for
Yeah,
Good to have
also
someone
here,
listening to
also representing from London. I'm Ali, but you probably know me better as Geeky Faye of Geeky Faye Art, and I am a creative pioneer, probably more than anything else. I have a background in art, so I kind of approach all sorts of things technological and creative from that sort of perspective, and I do all sorts of things a little bit like Joe. I'm very much on the, I have a laundry list of things that I do. Obviously, 3D printing is a big part of it, as well as 3D design, but also all sorts of things involving fine art. I do sewing and leatherworking and things for cosplay. I do a little bit of everything too, including, of course, the YouTubes and the making of videos. So I'm very much kind of like the redheaded version of Joe, but with a little bit less breaking, because I'm terrified of breaking things. I need to be less afraid of breaking things.
That's all part of a process, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah.
And also we have Adrian, aka Mars Gizmo. Adrian, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, everybody. Like you said, I'm Adrian. Most of you know me from my channels Mars Gizmo, where I show my passion, one of my passions, 3D printing. I'm also have like my original passion was and still is electronics. So and between electronics and 3D printing, I would say I'm also doing a bit other things in between.
What's between electronics and 3D printing?
Oh, many things in my head, at least. Yeah, so it's a pleasure to meet you all. It's a pleasure to meet all the participants, and really looking forward to see questions and discuss with you in different topics.
Great, thanks for being here. And last but no means least, we have Joe, aka Integza. Hi
there. So mainly I'm obsessed with rockets and engines in general. I use 3D printing in obscene ways to get what I want, which is engines most of the time. Yeah, I'm also in the same time zone that you and Ali.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
You forgot about me. But all of that is part-time, because what I do mainly is eat tomatoes. I'm trying to eradicate the fruit out of this planet.
that's a noble ambition for sure, undoubtedly. All right, well, thank you all for joining us, and yes, just to remind you can use the Q&A function to ask questions at any time, and we'll be getting to those as they come in. But first of all, let's just get in with some pre-prepared questions. So obviously everybody wants to know, what's your favorite fruit? No, I'm not going to ask that one.
Don't.
Banana.
I will rage quit.
No one's asking. Yeah, please do not ask what's your favorite 3D printer. That's not a question we're going to be asking. This,
Nope, not allowed. I admittedly thought you were going to say what's your favorite fruit after the tomato comment. That's okay.
I think we should maybe not mention tomatoes either, but I'm interested to know, because you've all been sort of making for different periods of time, and the industries, the community's changed a bit over that time. I'm interested to know really sort of what brought you personally to this, hobby, to this occupation, to what you're doing now. So I mean, maybe let's begin with you, Joe. Actually, seeing as that.
I mean, since I was very, very, very young, things always intrigued me. My parents used to buy me toys. I used to open them up. I want to see how it works inside and everything. And I remember once my sister bought me this Walkman. For those, I guess you know how old I am now, but it was a transparent Walkman where you could see the insides, so I wouldn't have to open it up. So I always had this thing where I want to break things apart and add things together and make my own things. And about 6 years ago, I decided I wanted a 3D printer. The idea that I could create things that I designed was just mind-boggling. That was the Peachy printer, just FYI. We all know how that went. And then I decided to buy my first proper 3D printer, which was a Prusa Mark II. And as that was arriving to Malta, I thought to myself, maybe I could create a YouTube channel about a total noob in 3D printing and, progressed from there. So, uh-oh. We know it was you. And it just evolved from there. There was the 3D printing aspect. It was always, it fascinates me till this very day. But as I progressed along, I'm the kind of person that I cannot stand still doing the same thing. I need to grow. I need to evolve. So then bigger 3D printers, different 3D printers, then different machinery, then CNC, then sculpting and CAD design, and and I'm here.
Sorry about that.
You're muted, Michael.
Yes, so technical hitch. I'm not a professional like everybody here. Ali, how did you discover 3D printing? What's your introduction?
Discover what exactly?
3D printing. What brought you to this, and what prompted you to start making content?
Well, it's like those are admittedly probably slightly different answers. How I got into 3D printing and how I got into content creation are slightly different. 3D printing was almost sheer luck, because it just I only learned about it because a friend of mine got one, and I don't even know what it was anymore. Like this, we're talking like 2012, 2013 kind of thing. So it was massive. I remember I think it was even IDEX, but it was amazing because I already was doing 3D design. Oh my God. Banned from chat. No, I was already doing 3D design because I worked in 3D animation and video games and that sort of thing. So the idea that I could take my creations and create them in the physical space was incredible. It would be several more years before I actually got my first 3D printer and started doing it myself. But ever since that day, like I can still remember it in my head, and I can remember where I was and what the printer looked like. Like I said, I don't know what it was, but I can see it. That definitely set off a domino effect of sorts. But for the content creation, that actually ties back a little bit to the previous stuff I was doing, which is I've been making and doing creative stuff my whole life. And I mean, I went on obviously to get a degree in art and to go and do, professional creative stuff. And I frequently found myself being restrained and restricted and held back. And like a little bit like Joe, I really wanted to just keep doing more things and different things and a variety of things instead of the same thing over and over and over and over again, which you end up doing a lot when you work in video games. So obviously the best way to accomplish what would make me happiest was just to do my own thing. And obviously if you're going to do your own thing, then you should probably put it on the internet. But I also have a background a little bit in video. So that was a kind of natural progression of sorts to I kind of did this thing where I went around and then kind of came back to the middle in combining the making of stuff and the filming and creation of video. So it was in a way a no-brainer, but also it took me a while to get there. But I'm glad I did. I'm glad I got there eventually.
Great. Well, we're glad you did as well, because your content's certainly very interesting. It's great to watch. So, coming at this question as well, and I see another YouTuber, Grant from 3D Musketeers, has joined as well. He's asking this question in a similar manner, actually. So, so Danny, what's inspired you to be a maker and a content creator?
Sure. So I started my channel not too long after I started 3D printing, and I kind of have a similar style to Joe and Ali in terms of always wanting to kind of do bunch of little things here and there and finding something new and shiny, being like, that seems fun. Let me buy $200 worth of stuff. Here we go. I'm going to learn this, and then just jumping into it. But I didn't really catch interest in 3D printing like that. But so I used to make a bunch of stuff for my Dungeons and Dragons games out of like cardboard and things like that. And I asked a friend of mine who had a Monoprice Mini to print me out some, it's a creature from D&D called an Intellect Devour. I'm going to nerd here for a second. For anybody who knows D&D in the audience, you will understand what I'm talking about. Otherwise, I will try my best to describe it. So I wanted to print a very specific monster. It was called an Intellect Devour. It's this little it's got a little paws and it's a little brain. And I could find one on Amazon, but it was like $10, $15. So I asked my friend to print one that a guy named Miguel Zavala had made. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. And my friend printed it, and I bust that out in the game. And everyone in the group was like, oh, it felt so cool that I just bust out. And I was so proud of this 3D print. It wasn't resin. It wasn't anything like that. It was just print a little monoprice mini. And I thought it was the most novel thing in the world. And my birthday came around the next month, and my friend showed up with a 3D printer, my group, for D&D. And they were like, we saw you like this. We did our research, and this is what we got you. And it was a CR10 back then. And that was it. And I wanted to quit after a month because I was one of those people that had failed a billion times on me, and I just couldn't get anything going. I tried everything. At that time, I was consuming all the content I could, like Joe's channel, Joel, 3D printing nerd, Tom, Angus, Maker's Muse, everyone that everybody knows right now. But that's how I learned and got through it. And, since I was making stuff for D&D, there wasn't as many channels at that time focusing on that sort of content. So I felt in many ways like I was just kind of learning as I went along a very specific niche thing. And I had no idea that it would become, printing miniatures and stuff would become as popular as it is today. But I was like, hey, let me document my journey and just share the things that I find for the people that are in the niche of a niche of a niche, kind of like me. So I started 3D Printed Tabletop.
Marvelous. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, Adrian, where did Mars Gizmo come from? I mean, one, what's the name about, and two, how did you sort of start making content? Why did you start doing this?
Very interesting question. So Mars Gizmo. I want to travel to Mars one day. And I'm not joking about this. So big fan of like traveling to Mars, Elon Musk, SpaceX, the rest. Since I was a child, I don't know why or what triggered me, but I was fascinated by space. So therefore that's why the name Mars, and then Mars Gizmo, then it was the one available everywhere. And of course Gizmo is because I like electronics. I love electronics. I love robots. I'm playing with electronics, maybe with, let's say, LEDs since I was like 5 years old. And this is also the reason why I went into 3D printing. So doing different sorts of electronics projects from A to Z, including designing PCB boards and producing my own PCB boards in-house and things like that over time. I always had the need to create custom cases and custom brackets and things like that for the electronics, custom panels. And I really like to when I make a product to be high quality, or at least to look high quality and feel high quality. So doing this kind of custom panels was always like a difficult thing for me to do. That's why I discovered 3D printing roughly 2.5 years ago, or 3 years ago, something like that. I went into it. The first print was excellent. Then my excitement was going up, and then boom, crashing down. But of course, I think after the first 2 weeks or so, I disassembled most of the printer. Then I started to upgrade all the parts. I also did like a full water-cooled hot end and things like that by my own. Yeah, this is mainly the reason why I went into 3D printing. And what I love about it is that I also do a bit of CAD design, not that much. What I love about 3D printing is I have an idea or I have a problem, and then I think of a solution. I quickly make a simple design. I set it to the printer, and then I can hold that design within hours in my hand, within the same day sometimes. So that's, for me, it's very empowering, and I think it's 3D printing also for like consumer 3D printing, industrial 3D printing, and all its fields, I think they're here to stay for future, definitely.
No doubt. Yeah, I think we're just getting going in some ways.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Joe, last but no least, same question to you, but also there's a question from Merlin in the audience who's asking, in addition to what got you into this, why rocket engines?
So basically what got me into 3D printing is the fact that I'm extremely lazy and have no skills, zero. With the exception that I can 3D model, right? So that's the only thing I know how to do. When I found out that you could 3D print stuff, I was like, no way, Jose, this is not possible. And then I think it was about 6 years ago, and I was working full time. I was a mechanical engineer at the time. And the thing about making stuff is that normally if you want to make something that is relatively complex, you have to have a lot of skills, you need a lot of materials, a lot of tools. And it fascinated me, the idea that you could use one tool to make like very complex stuff. And it's fascinating. It's just like Adrian was telling you guys, it's so amazing that you can have an idea and try to solve a problem, and you can you can make it all with just one tool. For me, it was amazing. That was basically it. Then when I started 3D printing stuff, I just got obsessed and obsessed and obsessed, and I couldn't stop. So I guess this is a kind of 3D printer holics of some kind. But with the time, I was like, I needed to basically do more complex stuff and do more interesting stuff. And one of the things that I like the most is engines. I love the way in which they turn the chaotic and chemical disarray of things into something like precise and create power and energy. I love that. Rocket engines is just because they are so powerful. It's insane. It's insane how powerful they are. And I could like try to describe, I have never seen, of course, a full-scale rocket in like live. But from my experience, it's just the most amazing feeling because you're seeing something that is engineering but art at the same time. It's fascinating, and they're so simple. That's the thing about rocket engines. They are literally just hot gas coming out of a hole, and even so, they are the most powerful kind of motor engine you can find on the planet Earth. It's insane. It's beautiful. That's what I can say about them.
Thanks for your detailed answer. We've got another question coming. The most popular question at the moment is, what has been your best communication medium with your many fans? I think, Joe, let's ask you this one. Sorry, Integza, Joe. We've got Joe Breaks as well, but Joe Integza, I think we can ask her.
Now at the end is Joel.
Joel, sorry, Joel.
No problem.
Apologies, Joel. Yes, if I can ask you that, what's your best? What's your favorite way to communicate with your viewers?
I personally, I think for me it was always Twitter. Twitter was my platform from the get-go. I'm not a big fan of Facebook, and other social medias. Twitter was always the get-go. Recently, it's become Discord. Everyone who's subscribed to me on Twitch or my Patreons join my Discord, and we have like these nice lazy chats all day. I update them on what I'm doing and what I'm not. Initially, before like the channel really grew, I think it was the YouTube comments. I was one of those people who would reply to every single comment. And I would have hundreds of comments and I'd reply to every single, even if it's just a thank you or yes or no. But I think mainly it would be Twitter for me.
And then Joel, what about yourself? Are you Twitter, Discord, YouTube comments?
I would say Discord for sure. I love the way in which you can just enter a chat and directly talk with fans or even not fans, just people that have the same interest as you. I love it.
Adrian, you're from a slightly different medium. We're going to come to this in a moment, but does your preference sort of is it reflected in how you communicate coming from that particular medium?
I would say my main communication medium is replying to comments, like Joel said, because I'm on different platforms, and of course there are different people on different platforms. So I still try to reply to as many comments as possible because I appreciate all of them. For direct messages and then like fast interaction, then Instagram DMs, I would say, and Twitter. Twitter a bit less, but yeah.
Prepare for a meltdown
like
on your Instagram DMs.
Yeah.
Ali, how do you like to interact with the people who follow you?
You know what? I'm also, I think, in the Twitter camp, because it not only is it it feels like I reach the most people there, but I also like the fact that it is a text-based kind of communication. Like you can tweet at people without images or videos or stuff like that. Like I'm on virtually everything, because it feels like you have to these days. But like with Instagram and with TikTok and stuff like that, obviously you reach people through images or videos and stuff like that. Same with YouTube, obviously you upload videos and people respond to those things. Whereas Twitter, you can just speak. You can just speak with words, obviously in text form, and you can communicate with people that way. And I kind of like the simplicity of that, but also there's more people there. But interestingly enough, actually, I am starting to get into Discord too, and finding that Discord is an interesting kind of tool. I for whatever reason, I feel old using Discord. Like I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and I feel like potentially the way my parents feel when they, you know, are text messaging me. Like I'm just like, what is this? Why is that disappeared? What's happening? What's going on? But I'm slowly getting the hang of it. And as I get the hang of it, I quite enjoy. I am enjoying Discord more and more, but I still think Twitter for me is my number one.
I know what you mean about Discord. Yeah, I dipped my toes into that. I think it was at the beginning of the pandemic, really, and we sort of got a group together to put people in contact. And pretty soon it sprawled, and we had people sort of coming in to write, I don't know if there's scripts or whatever you do with Discord, but people who know more about Discord than I do, for sure. Danny, do you how do you engage with your community normally?
Sure. Yeah, there's Discord too. And I know there's a comment that says, you know, tweet equals taught at, whereas Discord is actually communicating. I feel like YouTube is really the best way for me to share a message with people. And I know that's kind of one-sided, but it really helps me at least see what people are thinking, because I get a lot of comments. I can't respond to all of them, but like Adrian, of course, I appreciate all of them, right? And at least it helps me understand. It gives me a pulse on how people are responding to my opinion, to my videos, right? And also the tips and suggestions. But it's interesting because different people, you know, some people think there's an overlap, right? Like, oh yeah, if you're using YouTube, you're using Facebook too. Like all the people are together. There's like an assumption of that. At least there was for me. And I found that's not true at all. Like, sure, there might be a very small group of people who like really love your work that are on all those platforms. But most of the time, if you watch YouTube, you really consume YouTube. If you're on Twitter, you love Twitter and you consume it. If you're on TikTok, you consume TikTok. Instagram, the same thing, right? So, I mean, when I post on each of those different platforms, it's to speak to different audiences, right? Like Instagram, I can share my miniatures and people get it over there. If I share a picture like that on YouTube, on my community tab, I mean, I get a much smaller amount of people who respond to it. Whereas if I post a video, I can really feel like the pulse of people who are watching the YouTube channel have to say. You know, in terms of like engaging with people, Twitter's the best for me because I feel like I get the least comments that are usually the most meaningful, and those are a little bit easier to respond to because it's a lot easier for me to respond to 3 comments versus 250. You know, so
Yep.
And Discord, of course, is nice, but Discord's kind of informal, you know, and most of the time people will go there for different reasons than just, you know, then they'll go to Twitter and all that other stuff.
I find it really hard to keep up with busy Discords. Like I go away and I come back and there's 200 new messages and I'm like, all right, well, I'm jumping into this conversation exactly where it is right now. I'm not reading those, which I think makes it a little bit harder. Though obviously if it's not a busy Discord, that is less of an issue. Though sometimes that goes in the other direction and then it's dead silent for ages. And you're just like, oh, if I say something now, it's going to be like shouting in a quiet room. Like that also feels slightly weird.
Right. So, the way I came to, and I'm sure this is probably true for a lot of people in the audience, to everybody's content was via YouTube. And I'm interested to know whether, one, do you think of yourselves as YouTubers, and two, is it possible still to have a career just based on YouTube, given changes in the way ad revenues are distributed, etc. So
I was going to say you might need to define based just on YouTube.
Well, Ali,
I think that means different things to different people.
Indeed, and we've been talking a little bit about this, and I think you had some really interesting things to say about it, and your thoughts about what is a YouTuber these days, anyway.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I never have weird or interesting things to say, but no, it is like it is curious because I do think some people define subsidizing solely off of YouTube as like subsisting off of ad revenue and not requiring sponsors, not requiring outside influence, I guess, and just surviving entirely off of ad revenue. And I'm curious if anyone actually does that.
Right.
I'm sure somebody does, but
yeah. Joe, what are your thoughts about this? About do you see yourself as a YouTuber? Do you think if you're just getting going now, would you just focus on YouTube?
I think YouTube has it's become like a very small portion of what I do on my day-to-day things. I might have considered myself a YouTuber initially. Nowadays, I refer to myself more as a content creator because my content is actually spread over different medias or different mediums. There's YouTube, there's Twitter. I share a lot on Twitter as well. I share a lot on my Discord. I share a lot on my Mini Factory. So I wouldn't say I'm a YouTuber, mainly because if I had to rely on the ad revenue for survival, I would barely make a quarter of my mortgage. But YouTube was the stepping stone for me to other means, which was, it opened up a lot of possibilities for me when it comes to consulting with 3D printing. Like, bearing in mind that at one point, I had over 80 3D printers working in my garage. So I had hands-on experience with all kinds of 3D printers, which, I gained knowledge from and I could help others. And that's sort of what a stepping stone for my consultancy in 3D printing. And then I taught myself like how to design in CAD for 3D printing specifically, because just because you can design something, it doesn't mean it can be 3D printed easily, or it can be 3D printed at all. Yeah, it kind of evolved. And now I'm also I do a lot of prototyping for customers. I do it for myself when I want to invent or create something myself. So I'm more of a content creator. I consider myself a content creator more than a YouTuber.
Thank you. Adrian, what about yourself? How do you, what was, which platform did you first start using, by the way?
It was TikTok.
Okay, so a bit different to everybody else there,
yeah.
But you've been pretty successful on YouTube. I think I checked just now, and 2.6 billion views.
Yes,
which is a phenomenal number.
It's really unbelievable. It blows my mind. So my journey was started last year. I mean, I was preparing since like 3-4 years ago to post on YouTube, preparing, watching tutorials, how to film, how to do this kind of things and so on, but never did anything. So last year in January, I decided to post daily on TikTok. I was watching some recommendations from some people, and they said, like, go on TikTok, post there. It was the time when most of the people were still thinking that TikTok is only for kids. And understood it's not the case. And then I started posting daily on TikTok. I did that for about 5 to 6 months. I learned a lot. I learned how to make because I'm focused on vertical format, short form videos, and I learned a lot how to make them very intriguing, entertaining, very catchy. In other words. Then from TikTok, then I went also into Instagram, more specific Instagram Reels. And then I went last year in September to YouTube Shorts. Same thing. And was an unbelievable experience, unbelievable growth everywhere. And then I realized that these kind of very short format videos are here to stay. Will never, I would say they are not competing with normal videos. They are in different category, like in parallel. Most of the people, I would say, they like to consume both sides. Of course, there are people who like only the normal videos, but I'm definitely will keep focusing on this as well. And soon, I'm preparing also to introduce normal, longer format videos.
Okay, well, I'd definitely want to come back to talk about that. That's quite exciting news to hear, for sure. Danny, would you say you're a YouTuber, a content creator? How do you describe yourself? And also, do you think it's possible to to have YouTube as a full-time occupation still, or do you need to, as others have said, do consulting, supplement this in other manners?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's possible to do YouTube full-time. I have a lot of friends who do, right? And the biggest way that they supplement their income is through Patreon most of the time. So when a YouTuber says like, Patreon allows me to make videos for you, they're being honest. They're not just saying that to like draw you in and like get your money. Like they want to be doing content creation the whole time. And a lot of times it's the difference for them between doing it or not. For me, that the Patreon money that I have allows me to go into upgrades for the channel and things like that, like the teleprompter back there. But for me, I've always supplemented my income pretty much since the first year or two by making 3D models for my specific audience, right? For people like me, people who want to play Dungeons and Dragons, and specifically 3D printing miniatures and terrain has changed a lot in the last 3 years. I never would have expected to see like, Angus, Maker's Muse, like 3D printing miniatures on his channel and showing them off, Joe painting an artisan guild bust, or Angel, right? Like I didn't expect that, because even though Dungeons & Dragons is more popular than ever, it was still kind of niche. So I mean, for me, I also consider myself a content creator, but in terms of my family, like my tia, my aunt, who is like, Danny, what do you do again? And I'll tell her like, oh yeah, I run a design studio, tia. And she's like, oh, okay, I get that, because if I tell her like I make videos on YouTube, they'll be like, what? Like I don't get it. And so even like I was sitting next to a guy on a plane and he was like, oh, I see your tripod. What do you do? And I was like, oh, sometimes I make videos, and he's like, oh, cool. Like, what does that mean? And I was like, oh, I make it on YouTube. Oh, so you're a YouTuber. And immediately he thinks like I'm like doing vlogs on the plane and doing all this stuff. And, that's why I'm not embarrassed of making videos on YouTube. I'm really proud of it, but there's some connotations with YouTuber that doesn't quite fit like what I do and all the things that I do to supplement and to have been able to make the transition to full-time content creator.
Sure. And I can only imagine what it's like explaining to your tia. I had to explain to my abuela what 3D printing was. So something my grandmother sort of how this works. So she kind of got it eventually. Took a little while. Joel, how about yourself? Do you call yourself a YouTuber, or how do you sort of?
That's actually a very interesting question, because I started doing YouTube last year full time, and for a while I had like an identity crisis, because for so long when people asked me the question, so what do you do for a living? I would always reply with, I'm a mechanical engineer. I make CNC machines. But then that changed, and every single time, and here in Portugal, YouTube is not like a mainstream thing. So every single time I had to answer that question, it came with a full explanation of how a YouTuber makes money. So I had to go through everything. So, so there's ads on the videos, and part of the money from the ads come to me, because most people here in Portugal, when they ask you what do you do for a living, and you answer, I'm a YouTuber, they're like, in their head, they're like, oh, you're unemployed. And like, then I have to go like, no, grandmother, like I make money. There's money on the ads, and the money goes to my account, and I can pay for stuff and pay bills. But yeah, it's weird. I still don't see myself as a YouTuber. I love making videos. I am a YouTuber because I think every single person here, with the exception of yourself, is a YouTuber. Because if you post videos and you have an audience, you're a YouTuber. I mean, if you post videos on YouTube, of course. But yeah, I can't see myself as a YouTuber. And for me, it's really weird, because I started YouTube because I had like these idols for me, like Vsauce, Smarter Every Day, Veritasium, Angus for Maker's Muse, 3D Printing Nerd. All these guys that for me, they were the YouTubers. I'm not the YouTuber, they are. I'm just like, I'm just putting out a facade. I'm just posting videos. I'm pretending to be a YouTuber. It's weird, but no, I don't see myself as a YouTuber.
Well, you're about to hit 500,000 subs, I think, pretty soon. So maybe you'll decide you're a YouTuber then, because your channel is. Anyway, Danny, you mentioned Patreon, and I noticed there's a few people in the chat talking about Patreon as well. And I'm wondering who here has heard about what My Mini Factory's doing with their Tribes program. Okay, couple of people.
I glanced at it recently, like the other day when I was uploading a model, and I was like, what is this?
Yes.
I've not actually seen it before.
Well, we covered it today on 3DPI, and it looks similar to Patreon. There are creators there who are creating miniatures. There's also the Scan the World Cultural Heritage Project is on there. I'm interested to know so it looks like it's a Patreon-esque sort of platform for people in our universe.
It's a paywall.
But this is
kind of.
Well, I don't know. It's more that the money goes to the creators, so it's a way of sponsoring your creators. I mean, Joe, you were nodding when I mentioned it.
Yes, basically because I've just enrolled in Tribes, and I'll be launching it very soon. It makes life much easier. So Patreon is great, and it's been a source of major of my income for many years now, and it's what kept me going all these years. But it has a lot of limitations, especially for those people who do sculpts or CAD designs that they want to give to their Patreons. Like, for example, on Patreon currently, I have to upload my designs on Dropbox, for example, then share the link to Dropbox.
Yeah,
I have to change it every single month, just in case people just hop in, take the models, and leave. Then if I want to grab those same models on my factory, the STLs, then I have to go back on my manufacturer, upload them there. Kind of have with Tribes, it's like it's completely content-oriented in terms of those people supplying files. And, it gives more incentive to do competitions, for example, better communications with your tribe members. So yeah, I should be launching mine very soon. It's going to be weird transitioning from Patreon. It's always there's always this thing where like I can just drop one to start the other. But yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Are you leaving Patreon then to do this?
I mean, it's. I'd lie if I say yes, I'm leaving. I can't just leave. It's going to be. It's going to have to be a where both will kind of be.
But you are moving.
The thing is, with me, it's only recently that I've been sculpting and giving models to, and I also do functional stuff to give to my Patreons, and so there's anyway happening. So this is coming in at the right time for me. So it's just
excellent
in time, and then at some point just move over to Tribes.
Yeah, an exclusive there then. Danny, you were, I noticed you've heard of Tribes as well. Are you doing something similar?
So I'm not joining Tribes, but a lot of the times, since even before I started the channel, I've always done my best to kind of keep my roots in the ground and stay really connected with most of the stuff happening in my community. And Tribes is definitely a thing that's leaning towards miniature and model creators. Like Joe and like Fotis Mint, for example, are very connected to a lot more models than just miniatures and terrain, but there's over 100 Patreon content creators that are focused on making miniatures and things like that, which 100 doesn't seem like very much. But when you think about some of those Patreons having 6, 7, 8,000 people contributing $10 a month to them, these are significant. These are significant teams, individuals who are making these things. There's definitely a small market there, right? And a lot of them, I would probably say 80 to 90% of those people, maybe a little bit less, they distribute files through My Mini Factory because it's more secure. It's a little bit easier than doing what Joe said on Dropbox and things like that. So My Mini Factory starting Tribes is smart, in my opinion. I've seen My Mini Factory kind of evolve from the very beginning 3 years ago, and I think Tribes is still in beta phase, right? So there's still a lot of features that I think they'll need to work on before it's 1,000% a. And I see Joel kind of waving the hand, but I think in many ways.
I was not
making
a comment.
I thought you're saying like that's baloney. They need to start and just go and figure out everything later, which is very much that startup mode mentality, But for me, it's a great move in the right direction for the community as well as for My Mini Factory and the content creators that are or the designers that are making things for here. But I know My Mini Factory does a lot more than just 3D model, like you mentioned, the scan the print, but for it to completely remove Patreon, I'm not sure. I think they'll both have a place in the next year. Like, for example, I can't see somebody like Joel, 3D printing nerd, on Tribes, not to offend Tribes, right, or the My Mini Factory team, but he's really making content creation. That's like what he does primarily, right? He uses that money to fly out to different places that we don't normally get to go and has a team to cover those things. Versus like Joe, who's starting to get into 3D models. There's only like a Fotis Mint who's making these things himself, who a sponsor of him is literally like a patron. Like, you would have hundreds of years ago, you want somebody to keep making their art, you literally will pay them money to survive and let them make the art that you want them to make, And so Tribes is really convenient. I do think, like Adrian talking about TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels, all these new features that have come out, I think it's going to have a different place, especially for the miniature community.
I mean, I think the community's been very good always at trying to ensure that people credit designers, but you can't live on credits. It's nice to see some money going to.
I don't agree with that, Michael. I don't want to be like the yes no guy, but I remember 4 years ago, even 3 years ago, there's always been a struggle for creators to be recognized. You would see companies pop up and share their stuff on Instagram, on Amazon, and you'd see a model that everyone in the community knew was not theirs. It was not open. It had a very clear no commercial CC license, and people would call those companies out. I
think we're agreeing with each other then. I think that's what I mean by the community sort of trying to make sure people give credit. So somebody from outside exploiting.
Just a couple of days ago, I got an offer to review a machine that's coming out in a couple of months, and I went onto the website. I need to do my research, and I saw a few models of a creator I know very well. The first thing I did was I sent him a message. I was like, "Have you given permission to these people?" And he's like, I know that the owner was a patron of mine at some point, but is not anymore. He goes, but they do tweet my photos and tag me. So I just went back and told him, like, listen, unless you put the creator's name on your website linking to these models, I'm sorry, I can't. I'd love to review the model, but
It's not a big ask either. Like that's
I
not.
mean,
It's
I
not
just
even like
can't,
they're
you
asking
know?
for money. Like it's literally a
now,
name and a link.
especially now that I design my own things, I know it's not, it's not money, but at least it's recognition, like I've spent days
Credit.
designing something, at least, hi, Joe did this,
It's acknowledgement that you
Yeah.
did this thing, and that is actually, I think, worth something quite significant. We really live in a really odd age now of like instant shareability. Like you can retweet something, or you can even like move something from TikTok to Twitter, or from Twitter to Instagram, or you can move things into different platforms, and you can just share it without giving any credit. And people do this all the time without a second thought, not maliciously necessarily, but they still do it. And then that thing goes viral, and the person who made it gets nothing because they weren't tagged in the tweet, or that like there's something very, very, very important about just being like, hey, this person did this thing. That's it. Like this isn't a big ask. This is a relatively small ask, but people are very short. Like it's just they don't think. It's just a quick thing. And then obviously when you start entering into commercial stuff, it's then like, oh no, you have a responsibility actually as a company to do a little bit of homework.
Well, yes,
and put a name on a thing. Like it's not that hard.
You know who I think that I would bet money that the person who has the most experience with this is Adrian, because since I started YouTube 3 years ago, there's been a real problem with like channels just taking snippets from YouTube and just removing watermarks. And the best for that are these short videos that you can chain link and make these things and put them on Facebook and make so much money off of them. And everyone thinks that company did it, or adding like text to it, like a guy makes the coolest thing, like, oh,
a guy.
Some guy. He knows who this guy is.
Yeah. So,
mystery.
Is that the case, Adrian?
Yeah. Yes. I've seen, at least with my videos, so many people are copying my videos, which in most of the cases,
literally copying the format, or directly copy and pasting?
One-to-one copy.
Wow.
Everything, including the audio. It's pretty interesting. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it's not affecting me that much because most of the channels are very small. Some of the channels are like, I think they're automated. Most of them, they have automated pipelines, which are just basically putting your channel, whenever you release something new, automatically will copy it and will post as a new video. There are also, of course, many people doing that as well. The thing is, those kind of channels are pretty small, with the exception that indeed there are some of them which are like copying, snipping, and making a longer video out of like 20, 30 smaller videos. They're pretty smart about that, because they take this like, they take only the videos which are doing very well, which are proven to work well, to be interesting and entertaining. The thing is, I have seen many channels, even big channels, which will disappear overnight because of that. Because in my case, I will give myself as an example. So there are many people copying my videos. Then if I see a channel which is, let's say, 50, 100,000 subscribers, I can do a copy strike, and that most probably they can get 2, maximum 3 copy strikes, and after that the channel is deleted. And unfortunately, I had to do copy strikes on some of the channels. I mean, first, I'm like pretty open about that. I try to reach the creator, I try to explain to him, and after like 1 or 2 months, if they don't respond, then I will do a copy strike. Yeah.
That's your right. You shouldn't feel bad about that. People are just wholesale ripping off your work and reposting it for their own benefit.
We've had this.
They deserve it.
Yeah,
we've had this with our website. We've had people posting, I don't know, 5,000 of our articles on their own site, and then saying, "But we're giving you exposure." That took me.
Incredible.
Yeah, we're all right for that actually. But
Meh.
The best is it's also like extending a bit, or most of the companies are trying to, whenever you do a sponsor or something like that, if you don't do like an agreement which is very specific, then they will start to give you surprises, like you do maybe a share post, even a simple picture, and then you clearly state that what you will do, of course, and then you realize after like 2 months they have a new Kickstarter campaign with your picture in it, and then, hey, we were being seen on Mars Gizmo show and he's recommending us, and I never said that.
That's a bit like the sort of the movie poster scenario for us, where someone will take a very small thing we said and then slap our logo over everything. Speaking of pictures, though, I'd like to really see your best thumbnail faces. Do you have a do you have a thumbnail face?
No.
Yeah.
That's
We always
that's so
try to
dirty.
avoid.
It's dirty that you asked that.
Oh, that's a good one. Good one, Joe. Danny, how about you? Do you do these?
I tried, but honestly.
Who actually
it
is in
depends
their
on the video.
thumbnail photos to begin with? Because lots of people don't
even.
actually show up in their thumbnail photos.
I'm not.
Me neither.
Rarely,
Exactly. I
rarely.
mean,
Best doesn't
Am I
bring
the only
in the
weird
views.
one? Ugh.
I think the only time I was on my thumbnail is when I built the CNC, and the only reason I was on my thumbnail is because I had to stand on top of it to show how big it was. So and it was like a
you got to go big. Admittedly, I have a face made of rubber, so I have a range of thumbnail faces because I don't necessarily want to just be stuck in the thumbnail face. So I definitely have my thumbnail face and my thumbnail face, and there's a bunch of thumbnail faces. I try to keep it fresh because
wow, you are the
one.
professional on this. Yeah, but it's
like I said, I have a face made of rubber, so I can, depending on what the thumbnail is about, they're definitely. I think I had a bit of a face on my last thumbnail as I was looking up at a giant finger. But if you want to do thumbnails, you don't need to have a thumbnail face.
Okay, so we're about to get to the end of the discussion bit, and we'll be going over to the networking bit in a second. So, just quickly, I'd like to know what each of you've got planned. What's coming up next? What's next? So, Joel, maybe you could tell us a little bit what you've got around the corner.
Do you mean like the next video?
Next videos, projects you're working on, anything you can sort of share with people at the moment?
Well, normally when I start a project, it always takes me more than one video. Right now, I'm trying to expand on what I'm building. I'm really interested in the monopropellant rocket, the hydrogen peroxide one, which is basically the famous Devil's Toothpaste from Mark Rober. I like that because it doesn't involve combustion and me probably dying. Also, I'm working on another project that involve 3D printing and turbines. I don't want to talk too much about it because it kind of takes the fun out of it.
Yep.
But yeah, it's more of the same. It's more rice.
Okay. Yeah, I've been certainly enjoying the last one with the skateboard, and you finally got it sort of shifting quite a bit, actually. So yeah. Yes, excellent. Joe, what's next for Breaks and Makes?
Wow. Well, in a couple of weeks, I'm about to receive a 400 kilo machine, which I cannot disclose what it is just yet. But it'll lead to some very interesting project. Yes, it's 400 kilos. And it's been on the sea for a month and a half so far.
We expect many videos about it.
Where are you doing this?
In the meantime, I'm just basically, to be honest, currently I'm working on. So as Danny said, I paint. I love painting. I love painting miniatures or busts or sculpts. And I have a shelf full of them. And I tend to just put them on the shelf there, and they're just stacking up. And I have a gorgeous plain wall right next to me here. So I thought, I want to make some shelves. And I love hexagons. I absolutely love hexagons.
Hexagons are the bestagons.
And exactly. So I thought, I all of them are different sizes. So why not make I'm working on a modular shelf, which starts with is. But then you can just add other pieces to it to make it larger.
Nice.
And then
I would like this,
you
please.
can wait. Hold on.
I have
Then you
many
cover
things
these things over here. See that
What?
gorgeous plate?
Ah,
So you can have them in different colors, have some
Mhm.
fun, make it larger, wider, whatever. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment.
Nice. I like it. Danny, what's coming on 3D Printed Tabletop?
I am. There's a new. Here we go. There's a new Dungeons and Dragons book that just came out. It's called Wilds Beyond the Witchlight, and I am making. The first part of the book takes place in this carnival. It's a really quirky carnival, so I'm doing a big build with of that carnival.
I look forward to seeing that for sure.
Yeah.
And
Thanks.
Ali, what have you got planned?
I'm always working on at least 4 things at a time, which at the moment includes 2 things under NDA, so I can't talk about those.
Uh-huh.
But I am hard at work on Bimoctoprint, and the model is done. It's taken a lot of work, but I think I'm calling it done. And at this point, I'm just testing some of the fit and the mechanisms, and of course recording the video for it. And so hopefully Bimoctoprint's body will be printed and assembled and complete very soon, which means there'll also be a video very soon. But I'm also still doing tests on the tiniest nozzle and making the tiniest prints. And now actually at this point making not so tiny prints with the tiniest nozzle, is I think where I'm at. I've done the tiny things now. Now I have to do normal size things.
I've seen a couple of those, I think. And Adrian, you mentioned longer form content. Can you share anything else about that?
yes. So, been preparing since a few months, but I was traveling. I would say in the next 1 or 2 months, I will start posting also longer form videos, mainly on YouTube, which will include 3D printing and electronics. Most of it, I would say. I like to do crazy projects, unexpected projects.
All about the crazy projects.
Yeah. And with my experience in electronics, I have some pretty interesting ideas. I have to see if people like them.
I am certainly very interested in your electronic stuff because I'm learning the
I'm
electronics,
sure
and I want to absorb the electronics knowledge from other people. So yes, please bring on the electronics.
Will come soon.
Yes.
And in parallel, I'm also working with my brother, Mihai Designs. I don't know if you know him. He's also on YouTube doing similar things like me. So we are working together. He's a super high skill senior software developer. So he's coming from the development side with 3D printing, and I'm from electronic side with 3D printing. So we are trying also to make some interesting, or let me say useful products for the 3D printing community, which I would like to have for my printers since some years now. So we said, okay, we probably have to make them because nobody's doing them. So
I was gonna say I have to be the rude American in the room. He's your actual brother?
Yes.
That's awesome. I didn't know that for so long. I literally only learned that very recently, and I was like,
thank you.
But wait a minute.
Exactly.
That's
awesome.
Big
That's
reveal
awesome.
there. We're going to have to sort of wrap things up here because we've had about 60 minutes more. Thank you all so much for joining today and taking your time. Joe, Danny, Joel, Adrian, and Ali, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
us.
And thank you for everyone who also came over and asked questions. Sorry we didn't get a chance to answer everything, but there will be a networking session now. Where hopefully
come bring your questions.
come over. So, I mean, maybe we can just say the traditional closing YouTube phrase: like and subscribe.
Oh God, I need training.
Okay, you ready? Like and
subscribe.
I've been making
Literally never do
Thank
that.
you, everybody. See you on the other side.
Bye.
Bye.